guys, welcome back to Romance Review TV with Lady T, and I got another recap for you guys. The Bachelorette Season 19 Episode 2 Week 2 recap. And yeah, we got a lot to unpack in this video. Logan made moves on both Gabby and Rachel. Meatball poured pasta sauce on his bare chest, and a dude named Chris effed around and got found out twice. But before we unpack this, take a second to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Also, make sure your notifications are turned on, and don't forget to like and share. So it's pouring rain outside. Everybody is stuck inside. The Bachelorettes are not too happy about it either, because they were hoping to have some pool party with like 29 of these guys, half whom they haven't even talked to get to, know them a little bit better and kind of see what's up under there and if they're packing six-pack abs. But don't worry, there is a plan in motion for something that is a totally normal activity that they would normally do outdoor. They're going to do indoor, which will allow the men to kind of showcase their, their personalities as well as their rock hard abs. So yeah, it is man pageant time. So the men have 30 minutes to change into these little Speedos thing and prepare a specific talent to perform for both Gabby and Rachel. Now, many of the guys use this time to do push-ups and pull-ups to kind of maximize their whole swole look before they actually put themselves on blast. But yeah, it was pretty interesting to watch. So Ryan preps by stuffing a sock into his Speedo, while some of the other men use what it looked like as olive oil to give their pegs this nice, shiny, sparkly look. Yeah, it's got to be a ton of all types of oils on hand for what was about to unfold. Now, once they're all suited up, the men gather in the living room where the Bachelorettes were also seated with, these little clipboards they had in hand ready to judge them. Jesse informed the guys that the winner of this man pageant will win time with the girls back at the Bachelorette pad. So let's talk about what was done. So we heard Tino talking about so many butts, so many dudes who don't skip a leg day after he disrobed, and the men had all these questions from the Bachelorette. How would your exes describe you? How many serious relationships you've been in? And then they get to perform their talents. Now, Logan does the worm. Mario and Jason did a juggle. And Avin spins a basketball on his fingers. Then Ethan performs the whipped cream challenge. And then Justin shows off his nunchuck skill. And Meatball does this. Yeah, he decided to pour meat sauce on his chest. And you can tell from the Bachelorette's reaction, they didn't like it. Rachel said, "I'm Italian and I don't even do canned sauce." Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. Jacob was the most impressive because he sat down and, fixes the Bachelorettes with a serious stare. "I'm going to help you guys save $60,000 a year on a 30-year fixed mortgage." I will say that's life skills. So yeah, it was pretty interesting to say the least, but doesn't look like Gabby is really feeling it. So while Chris thinks he got this whole thing with this private party invite in the bag, when the date card, arrived that night, his name isn't even on it. So who actually was Avin, Logan, Brandon, Jason, Johnny, and Colin. So now they got the time to have dinner with the Bachelorettes. And one of the guys hides his disappointment by insulting the men who did win by saying there are some people, including myself, who they don't need a test with right now because they already know how they feel. But for those of you who are going, that's awesome for the guys. I'm like, yeah, okay, dude, you just sound like you drinking some haterade right now. So our first group date of the season seems to be an intimate affair. However, it seemed like it got off to a very awkward start. So Rachel pulls Jason for a chat, and he comes right out and says the 6 words no woman wants to hear. Sorry, I like your friend better. Yeah, and I mean, he didn't say specifically that, but Jason does, his best to let Rachel down real easy by saying, I feel like I should be upfront. To be honest, when I got here, I felt more of a connection with Gabby. So it seemed like Rachel did take it, she took it pretty well, but of course for her, it was definitely disappointing. But, she also said that, there are going to be men that she will have amazing connection with. So hopefully it'll turn around for her. But, when you hear things like that, yeah, you can tell it's going to be tough situation that she's going to be in, because either she's going to like somebody who's going to like one of the other girl and vice versa. So, yeah, she's about to walk into something else. So let's talk about that. Then after hearing that, things went from worse to worser, if that's a word. Yeah, she is about to walk in on Gabby and Johnny making out. So it kind of made her feel a little bit unsure about where she stood at this point with this whole process at that time. They showed us this whole montage of her having this painful chemistry-free chat with Brandon and Colin. And she said, it really feel like these guys are having friendly small talk conversation with me, kind of like that you have with your own cousin. And she's like, someone is going to have to step up their game. And she was wondering if Logan was going to be up for the challenge. Sure enough, Logan was up for the challenge. One thing about Logan, he's a smooth talker. One thing he noticed, he said about her, is how brave she was. And for you to jump back into this process, that's incredibly brave. And I think we have a nice connection as well. And we can't forget Logan is that same guy who had flirty chats with both Gabby and Rachel on night 1. And he said he was, still deciding which one of the two he liked better. And yeah, I hope Rachel don't get disappointed again. And maybe we spoke a little bit too soon. Now, let me just say, any of these men are allowed to explore their, connections that they have with both the women, if they truly like them both. But Logan, however, is given that I'm just telling these 2 ladies what they want to hear so I can stay on TV kind of vibe. Now, before smooching Gabby, he buttled up to her with the same type of I'm hyper-focused on you flattery he used on Rachel. That's the one thing, he said, that's the one thing I was drawn to you, or drawn about you, is that you're someone who makes people smile and laugh. And he's just gushing. And yeah, I'm like, dude, don't you realize that both Gabby and Rachel do talk to each other all the time? Seriously. And, it make you kind of feel a little bit bad. It even made her heart kind of feel bad, especially when they compared notes. Because Gabby was like, man, I already felt like I had a really strong connection with Logan, and I was excited to see where that goes. So this is weird, because it is weird. This whole thing is crazy to me. I know they're trying to copy off of The Millionaire with that whole thing, just a little bit different. But Rachel did offer to back off from Logan if Gabby is super into him. But Gabby isn't about to do that, of course, to, her BFF. It's truly not worth stepping on Rachel's toes in this scenario, she said. So Rachel's date rose goes to none other than Logan. And, we can't feel too bad for Gabby, because she decided to give her date rose to Johnny, a guy who kind of almost looked like Logan. I mean, seriously, they do look very similar. Anywho, let's talk about these one-on-one dates. So, up first is Rachel, and her guy that she chose is Jordan V, the drag racer. So, yeah, we got to see what happens here. So, Jordan and Rachel climb into this classic sky blue Impala. They hit the road. I mean, best thing you could do with somebody that's a drag racer, right? But he did claim that he's afraid of heights and saying that, she being by his side helped him calm his nerves. Jordan and Rachel did get to float around for a bit, pretty much having fun, giggling and kissing each other in this whole zero gravity adventure that they shared. And, I thought it was pretty romantic because they looked like they were really into it. So back at the house, what we see is a bunch of the guys sitting around outside talking about Gabby and Rachel, how, a lot of them are open to both of them. And one of those people is Chris. Chris also said that he was planning to be there all the way. Yeah, you don't have that as an option. You don't get the choice. However, he goes on to say what he finds as a deal breaker for himself. And here's exactly what he said. He said that if we got down to the final four, which he planned to be in, and if we got into fantasy suites and we have this sexual experience, and then the person who I'm most interested in decides that she's going to have sex with multiple people, that would be the situation where I go, okay, I am out. Now, what makes this even worse, we see Quincy calls him out in front of another group of guys about this whole fantasy suite comment. And Chris is like, yeah, I said it and I'll say it again in so many words. And, he repeats that as if he is already in the final four, and that, the women in the situation have some sex with somebody else, that he wouldn't be interested in that person being the person that he's with. I mean, it's kind of similar to, he seems to be saying exactly the same thing that Gabby and Rachel was pissed off about when it came to Clayton, because he slept with all of the women and they couldn't move forward. And I know Susie did move forward with him that season, but whatever didn't work, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, the girls weren't happy about that. So while all this is going on, Jordan and Rachel are still going on with their date. Well, something happens, because it looks like, he is being sent home. So the dinner was going pretty good. However, Rachel asked Jordan about his childhood. Now, he told her that his parents divorced when he was 13. And as a result, he had to take care of his younger siblings. And that, of course, made him grow up faster than, what he expected. Rachel, of course, we saw her leaning in, listening intently, but she is not feeling it. Now, as much as she says, oh, Jordan, he is so perfect, he's exactly what I asked for, and he's here for me, she says the more the day is progressing, the more I just don't know what's there. She felt like something was missing. And the he's here for me is part of the problem. Rachel, might be someone who might gravitate toward unavailable men, because deep down she fears that maybe she might not deserve the love that she's given. I don't know if that's the case, but it seems that way, because he's such a good guy, but it's just not there. So anyway, she continues to tell him that there's just something that's missing for her tonight. And I just really want to be honest, and that for that reason, I can't give you the rose. And I truly do, apologize. And yeah, it was so sad. I mean, the thing is, she probably sees him as, like a lot of the women out here. Oh, he's such a nice guy. He's a little vanilla. He's polite, cute, respectful. He's got a good job. But a lot of women out here are looking for something else, usually something with a little edge. I mean, that's not my case. But I know for a lot of women that could probably be the issue, and that's probably the same here. And of course, with all of that going on and the guys finding out, they are truly shocked to see that, he came in and now he's gone. So now let's talk about a second one-on-one date this particular week, and that is with Nate. Gabby invited him over for a swim, and man, looked like he was putting on a ton of cologne. So he arrives over to where the girls stay at the Bachelorette pad, where Gabby and Rachel greet him. Rachel, however, can see the spark between Gabby and Nate, and indeed he's barely there for 5 minutes before this happened, where the two of them instantly are smooching. So no hesitation there. And from there, both Gabby and Nate climb into a helicopter. They have this whole scenic tour of the LA coastline. They rode past the pier, the Hollywood sign, and they keep kissing each other. And yeah, it was pretty cool. Now, they do have a second part to the date where it was in a hot tub. Gabby and Nate have this whole sweet vibe with each other, and Gabby seems like she's very happy, but things get a little serious at dinner time. So the handsome Nate decided to break the news that he is not only a dad, but he is 1000% a girl dad, which of course moved Gabby to tears, because she has a very, very strong relationship with her father. Her father was a single father, and she wasn't really close to her mother. And she also started asking herself, am I there yet? Can I be a mother? Is this the life I want? But she did decide not to make that decision right there in that moment. So she said she's going to give Nate the chance, and she gave him the date rose, and she thought that, he was like really a true man. So I thought that was cool. So the next night it's time for the cocktail party. Everybody has this confusion on how the rose ceremony is going to work. Yeah. However, when it comes to Rachel, it seems like she is spiraling when it comes to her, level of confidence. I mean, you got Mario out there. Mario is really interested in her. The thing is though, I think he also might have a little bit of interest in Gabby. I mean, we're only a few days in. So, Mario says that he is going to walk Rachel through this whole mini workout. And just as all, it is really cute. He scooped Rachel up in his arms and does a few squats while she squeals and giggles. And yeah, I think it's something that kind of set both the girl, because as he had one, the other one was watching, meaning Gabby, an eye shot of what was going on between Rachel and Mario in the driveway. So she was looking like she was feeling some kind of way, even though she was having a whole separate conversation. So let's move on to this other one-on-one date with Tyler. So they're doing this whole basketball arcade game type of thing. And of course, Tyler wins by like 12-2. For his prize, though, he gets a kiss. And of course, she's absolutely loving it. And Rachel is hoping that Gabby is having as much fun as she is. Because on the flip side, she's currently making out with Eric. Quincy is about to put a big damper on the night for both of the bachelorettes. So now we back to this whole thing with Chris. Quincy is not happy and is still bothered by what Chris commented earlier in the day, and believes it's his duty to share what happened with both Gabby and Rachel. And the way he put it, he said it like this: I think whoever heard this conversation and doesn't bring it to their attention is basically keeping secrets from their wife. Now, I don't know if I go that far, but I do agree with Quincy that the bachelorettes, of course, do need to know. So Quincy brings Rachel over to sit down with him, both Henley and Jordan H as well. They fill her in on this whole conversation that Chris had about the fantasy suites. And she is not happy about it. And she was like, I don't even know why sex is being brought up. The fact that Chris is already discussing ultimatums is just extremely upsetting. Yeah. Now, I'm twofold in that because he shouldn't be bringing up sex, but at the same time, what he said about it is exactly the same thing as how they felt with the Clayton situation. But neither to say, the situation, of course, needs to be handled. So Rachel makes a beeline straight to Gabby and reports what she heard, which I can understand that. She calls Chris's attitude controlling and disrespectful, and she is not going to let it stand. Both she and Rachel went to find Chris. They bring him outside, and Gabby went in. Gabby read him the fifth. I mean, Chris says that he's just a guy who likes to think through things to the end, and I can understand intentionality, but I think we're only 2 days in. And that he wasn't trying to take anything away from anyone else's journey when he told, the other guys about what his deal breakers are. And that whole answer, even 4 days in, it didn't sit well. They said that, it was very calculated thoughts about the fantasy suites at this time. She tells him, not respecting their right to make their own decisions. Chris stays true to what he says, and he pushed back saying, on the women and accusing them of not wanting to get to know him. Rachel was quiet up to this point, but she cut him off. She says, right now you could take the opportunity to maybe apologize and own up to what happened. But instead, I feel like you're being condescending toward us. And of course, with that, Gabby lets Chris know that it's time for him to go, and she is not taking any chances. And then once they got outside, Chris asked them, how does this work? I literally just walk on this direction. Yeah, that's how it should work. But Chris decided to make a U-turn and stroll right back into the mansion. He wants to have a word with Quincy, Nate, Hayden, Tyler, and Jordan. And just as Chris started to grill these guys about who tattled on him, Gabby and Rachel storm right back in with a crowd of men behind them and politely inquire what the actual F Chris think he's doing. And of course, hearing this, Nate stands up. He was like, all right, that's it. That's all that needs to be said. Let's go. You need to leave. And told him, well, if they ask you to leave, just be a gentleman and go. And man, that's crazy how, that all went down. But the guys really stood up for her. And yeah, it was time for Chris to go. So a lot of the guys were wondering how this rose ceremony, because it is time for the rose ceremony to begin, how this was all going to work, where each rose is coming from both the women. However, it did unfold. The rose ceremony went like this: Jason, Avon, Eric, Zach, Jordan, Quincy, Michael, Tino, Jacob, Tyler, Tremaine, Meatball, Hayden, Kirk, Spencer, Alec, Ethan, and Mario also joined Logan, Nate, and Johnny, who, of course, they already received roses earlier in the episode. Which means we lose Brendan, Colin, Ryan, Matt, Justin, and John. So they got to get sent home. Both Gabby and Rachel narrowed down who the men are going to be. We're down to 21. My question is, who are you guys liking? I think Logan, even though he might make it to the end, there's some question marks around him. Meatball is still there. Obviously, they like his entertainment. So we shall see. So, let's get the conversation started down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Take a second to make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. And don't forget to like and share. We'll see you next time. Bye.